This conference will now be recorded.
All right, guys, watch your language. I just hit the record button. Well, welcome, brothers, to Team Queester 2020. Hopefully you guys had an opportunity to read over the email I sent. I'm currently screen sharing, and I've got that up just in case there's anything anybody missed or didn't have an opportunity to go through it. We'll talk about some of the items in that real briefly, and then I really want to start diving into what's going on for this year. So thanks for being on the call. Obviously, there's by now you probably know there's a lot of changes to workshop for 2020 thanks to COVID-19. We're going to be going virtual this year, and what that means is that one, we won't be showing up in person. Two, we've got a content reformat for the entire division pretty much. So the things that we've been working on for the past 3 years that we were delivering in person that kind of included the leadership aspects into the Queester training are now going to focus more on actually the office of Queester and quote unquote nuts and bolts of the position. So we're going to be getting into the tasks of the Queester more specifically this year. And you know, I think it bears mentioning that when, I mean, as early as this past February, probably like mid-February, Team Croc had a meeting out in San Francisco. That was probably a week or two before all this COVID stuff really hit the United States. And I mean, at that point in time, we were still planning to show up to Bowling Green in the summertime, and we were still planning for that at that moment. So by the time we got home and had a few weeks and all the stuff started sorting out, it became kind of clear that, you know, the landscape in our country and in the world was changing a little bit, and there was some uncertainty with what was going on. So everything that we're going to talk about tonight is really things that have been born within the last couple months. I think it was April 30th maybe that the executive committee was able to vote on whether they were going to make workshop a virtual thing or an in-person thing. And you can see they chose for the former. And going virtual is, the climate's still a little unknown for a lot of universities, a lot of students, and they wanted to err on the side of caution. So these changes that we're making are happening very rapidly. And one of those changes is what I just mentioned in changing our format to working strictly on officer content rather than incorporating the leadership content we've been using the last couple years with regard to transformational leadership, our SOAR model, values-based decision making. And you know, one of the aims hopefully is that one, we could put the information together in time to get a workshop set up that could be done virtually. But number two is, you know, can we use this as an opportunity to take a look at what the future training is going to be for officers? Because when we come back to KTLW in 2021, hopefully this COVID stuff is gone and we can return to our regular format and do it in person. But we won't be coming back to KTLW next year with officer content. We probably won't even have that much chapter content. It's going to be a lot more leadership based, and this concept of an officer academy is being born. And you know, perhaps we have an opportunity here to kind of beta test some of our content and more of an online format. That's not to say that officer training in the future will be only online, but this is a unique opportunity for us to see how that platform works in training with our undergraduates. So I want to thank you guys for taking part in the team this year. I knew I could count on you, and obviously things are a little bit different, and you know, we're moving very fast, so there's still a little bit of uncertainty in a couple areas. So bear with me on that, but I just want to say I appreciate you guys jumping into the fire here. I know that within a short month we'll be up and ready to go to visit with our undergrads online. So before I move on, I just want to see if there's any questions about, you know, what's going on with the virtual KTLW, reasons for changes, or any general questions regarding that.
A quick one, but it's complicated. Any chance that this material that's being developed for our division now will be something that we could use as a base for building on in the future, maybe at the province level?
Great question. Actually, not that complicated. So back in, I want to say October, Dan Benoit and I were approached by our Grand Queister to do some work with him as part of the Grand Queister Commission. And one of his big charges for the next 2 years, the term of his office, was to make the Queister position the highlight of officer development. So obviously the Magisters have their P for B, and the proconsuls or the custos has their R for L, and we've got Mission 365 for recruitment. It's some of the questions been, well, what's going on with our financial training? So he kind of tasked us to begin creating content that would be a training program for the Queisters. And as things would go, 3, 4, 5 months from that point, here we are with this COVID issue going on, going to virtual workshop. And to be honest with you, I think our division is a little bit unique with the type of information that we need to try to teach our undergrads. It's not overly conceptual as far as subjective in a lot of ways. There's a lot of very objective content with what we do. So I'm finding out it's also not easy to write. So one of the nice things is we are already in that process, Phil, and we already had content to kind of build on. And I'll touch on that in just a little bit, because what we have is not going to be the full breadth of the Queister training for the future. This is just what we're getting together for VKTLW. So the goal is going to be is that whatever this officer academy turns out to be, the discussions I'm hearing, and nothing's official as far as I understand. I might not be high enough in the pecking order to know if it's gotten that far. And I don't know if Riggs is on. If he is, he might be able to answer some of this. But the stuff that we're creating and the stuff that the other officers are creating, hopefully in this virtual environment, will help for that platform, that these things can be done at province. The officer academy seminars might even be done at province, or maybe some seminars that are a little bit bigger than province, right? Like bringing multiple provinces together. I don't think there's a discussion at this point in time that officer academy will be as big as KTLW is. So yes, 100%, this information is going to get reused in some capacity. So the things we're working on now, it's not just for this year. It's just for this year for workshop. This will translate into some of the materials that are going to be on the officer side that'll be delivered on the province level.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Any other questions, guys? Good for now. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the content. The content is in development. We'll get into some of the specifics of the curriculum in a minute, and talk a little bit about the timetable and how it's going to be delivered and the platform. But actually, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Tomorrow's actually the deadline for all of the teams from Team Croc to have their information in, and I'd like to say I'm really close. I've got the bulk of the work done, and hopefully I'll have a productive night tonight. But what we're doing with the content is we've been asked to create 2 hours worth of video content, 2 hours-ish of video content that can be uploaded into a learning management system, which you'll hear me refer to sometimes as an LMS, that the undergrads can view online on their own time, basically, within a given time frame. So we'll get into the schedule of VKTLW in a minute, but the goal is to get that video content up and then back it up with templates, PowerPoint presentations if that's relevant, and having online discussions, and eventually culminate in Zoom calls with the facilitators. So we'll dive into that a little bit more, but the basis of the content is going to be buried in those videos. So I'll show you where those are available to you here in just a moment. We'll get into the timetable. To do that, I'm going to have to pull that up. And while I do that, I just want to mention, since I don't have a screen to see, can you guys see the TeamQCofer website?
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody can see it. Perfect.
Yep, it's up.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can see it.
So what I decided to do, because this content's going to be coming out as it's done, and again, it's supposed to be done in the next day or two, so hopefully I'll have the rest of it up. But I decided that since most of us are used to working through the website and it seems to work pretty well, that I would put the content there. So from the home page, you can see I added a page that says VKTLW Faculty 2020. So if we click on that, the guest area thing comes up, and if you guys hopefully remember, the password is just faculty, all lowercase. And you'll have to forgive me, I literally put this up, I think I published this about an hour ago from my office, right before I drove back home to do this. I'm gonna try and get all the content up here, but I wanted to kind of lay this out so that it's very similar to what it was last year. We have a section here for understanding virtual KTLW. I kind of explained some of the things we've already talked about. One of the things I'll mention here with the LMS, or the learning management system, the platforms that we're going to be using are, the first one is Canvas. Canvas is a online learning management system that a lot of universities and college use. I've actually taken classes through Canvas, so I'm a little bit familiar with it. But basically, it'll be a place where the undergrads can log in, you as the facilitator can log in, and it will house all of the information relevant to TeamQCofer and VKTLW 2020 as it pertains to TeamQCofer. So when you log in, the system should be set up so that it recognizes the officer team you're part of and open up to your relative small group. And we're still working on some of those details because it's based on membership and how many people register, but we're going to try and keep the small groups to 8 to 12 brothers, and hopefully on the smaller end of that scale. So we'll see how that pans out as the undergrads register. So anyway, the learning management system is going to be the base platform that we're going to deliver content to the undergrads in. And then the other thing is going to be Zoom, which I think at this point, there's probably a lot of you that are familiar with Zoom, but that's where we'll have our what we're calling synchronous calls with the undergrads, so we can actually interact with them and see them online. So that's kind of the platform there in step one on teamqcofer.com. Let's talk real quick about well, actually, I'll ask if there's any questions before I move on. Everybody good? Wonderful. Here under step two, I've got understand the format. So if you can see, if you're online, you can see I've got a PDF here. It says VKTLW course outline. If I click on that, you guys can see this now, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So here we've got process at a glance, and it's just kind of outlining what VKTLW looks like from a process standpoint. You can see this asynchronous learning or self-driven online learning. Those are the things that the undergrads are going to do on their own. And we as faculty will already have been through the content that they're going to learn. But you can see that they're asking us to break this up into 4 modules, which we'll actually have a small 5th, but I'll get into that in a minute. They want us to have 4 modules. Each module will have about 30 minutes worth of video content. It will have a discussion board assignment. So if any of you have taken classes in the online in an online learning management system, you've probably been through this. Ben actually was talking with me about this the other day. It's basically a chat board within the software. So once they watch one of these videos, let's say module 1, video 1, they'll actually have a little post-video quiz, which is a 5-question quiz on the video they just watched. And then they'll have a little assignment to reply with a couple paragraphs on the discussion board, and we'll actually take a look at a couple examples of those on our call tonight. But that's what the virtual environment's going to look for them as far as asynchronous learning. They're going to log in. They're going to have about 3 days to watch this video, take this quiz, and engage in the discussion. We'll get into the actual schedule breakdown here in a second. That's on the next page. I just want to kind of explain the components. Then there will be a synchronous learning or a virtual meeting. Here you can see we've got small group meeting, and they're supposed to be kept to about an hour. I haven't been told just yet. This is all going to be done through Zoom. Every group is going to have their own chat room, so I don't know if they have to be relegated to 1 minute or 1 hour. I mean, but that's a target that we're trying to use to have our conversations within that 1 hour time frame. And then there's going to be some VKTLW experiences. You can see it says significant inspiration videos. It says optional, but I think those are going to be created so that there's going to be some opportunity to have, say, an opening video for workshop, similar to having an open core session. I think they're going to have some videos that are going to be prepared, with regard to some of the programming we're used to seeing at VKTLW, like the Push Coalition, which I don't know if Push is going to do a video, but if you guys remember that speech, it's kind of motivational, in regard to treatment of brothers in hazing. So I think there's going to be a few of those opportunities, one for ritual, with materials that are safe for public viewing for ritual. So they're going to have some other experiences that are going to be created outside of Team Queester to take part in. So anyway, that's the basic format for a module, and you can see that module just repeats itself 4 times. And we'll talk about the schedule and how it's going to lay out week-wise in just a second, but I'll pause there for a moment and just see if anybody has any questions about the structure.
Looks good.
All right. All right, let's go to page 2 here, and we're going to look at the actual schedule. As you guys saw in the email, this is going to be a 2-week experience, and I've talked to probably at least 60 to 70% of the team on the phone. So that seemed to be kind of the big question, is how is this going to work as far as laid out through the week. So let's go over that real quick here. You can see that this is supposed to launch on Saturday, July 25th. It's going to launch with asynchronous learning, meaning it can be done online, which means you as a facilitator don't have to be logged in for this to happen. But they're going to have time to watch the video related to Module 1. That's the day that it will launch. And it looks like these Zoom meetings here that are set up, if you can see them on the days, that's supposed to coincide. I mean, these are just put in so you can see them. It's supposed to coincide with the time frames that you selected when you registered. So if you selected certain time frames that work for you, meaning days and times, you're going to try and be matched up based on that information, if that makes sense. So just because these Zoom meetings, 1 and 2 are here, if you signed up for a Thursday and not a Wednesday and you see that Zoom meeting 2, don't freak out yet. Those are things that we're working out. I think I just got that information yesterday, but haven't had a time to look at it, which I have to do so I can pair you guys up. But we're going to try and match you up with the time frame you selected. But at least shows that during the week, they're going to start these videos. They're going to take the quiz at the end of the video, and then they're going to have that online chat to be part of. And then it's going to be backed up by a Zoom meeting. You can also see in here there's Zoom meeting 1 on one day and Zoom meeting 1 on another day. When you guys registered, you were asked if you were able to take on 2 groups, or if you were willing to take on 2 groups. That would mean that you would actually have 2 discussion groups, both Queester groups, but 2 different groups of brothers, which could in fact mean that you could have, Zoom meeting 1, meeting module 1, you could have 2 of those. If it gets to that point, that's going to be based on registration. So if you said you would have the ability to take on 2 groups, then you may actually have 4 Zoom meetings in a week. So I got a little wordy there. Is anybody confused about that?
Survey says no.
Okay,
Yep.
same questions. All right.
We're gluttons for punishment.
Perfect.
We'll complain about it, but we'll gladly do it at the same time.
There you go. Well, you can see here, if we look at module 1 launch and module 2 launch, there's 3 days, from module 1 before module 2 starts. So that's where we're trying to break out this, 3 days for each module. And then you can see nothing on Friday. And then Saturday's not even, or Sunday's not even, oh no, Sunday is there. I'm sorry. Friday is a day off. So you guys get to rest 1 day. That's it. And then it just repeats. And then it does it for the second week. So that's the schedule. I'm probably making it harder than it needs to be at this point. So if you guys don't have any questions, then we'll move on from there.
Elmo.
I don't think we really need to go through these. Yeah, we're good. All right. So let's pop back to TeamQConferencecall.com and let's take a look here. After we get familiar with the course outline, which this group just did, now it's time to kind of get familiar with the content. Like I said, the content's going to be completely different this year. It's going to be very nutsy boltsy, but it's also not going to be 100% like it was in the past for guys that were on the team before when we did the nuts and bolts. It's going to be just a touch different because it's going to have some different things included in it. Now, one thing as we go through this, I want you guys to keep in mind, we were given 2 hours worth of total content to break down basically the entire position of Queester. And most of that is done because of a resource standpoint and the limited time that we had. Per Phil's question earlier, we're going to use this content in the future, but hopefully we will be able to expand upon it significantly to provide even better learning for our undergrads. So keep that in mind as we go through and as you guys watch the videos to get ready for the workshop, because taking everything that the Queester has to do and putting into a 2-hour period isn't always that easy. So, but we're going to do our best. So let me just go through a quick overview of the content here. We've got 4 modules, 2 videos per module. So module 1 is going to be an introduction to the role of Queester. So we're going to talk about the Queester role in that video. We're going to talk about the ethical standards in that video. In the second video of module 1, we'll talk about the 5 key areas of financial management. Those are budgeting, accounts receivable, accounts payable, cash flow, and reporting. We added in a time management element. One of the things that I feel is very important in this position is time management, and I think it's the one thing that is constantly lacking. If any of you guys, and I know some of you have spent any time trying to help a chapter on the financial side of things, they do not spend the amount of time that they need to taking care of this position as far as managing the transactions, making sure they're done. If you can find a chapter that reconciles their books well, let me know who they are. I'd like to send them something nice, because it just hasn't been my experience. So we included some time management in this, so hopefully that'll help them block out some of the time that's necessary to manage this position correctly. And then we'll have a discussion in that video about the financial committee. And speaking of the financial committee, Dan wrote up a really awesome storyboard and learning module for the financial committee. And I'm excited to see how that expands in the future, because I know a lot of our chapters do not utilize financial committees, and I hope that's something we can stress more in the future when we have more time. So module 2, video 1 is going to be on budgeting, and that's basically going to be budgeting basics. And then in module 2, we're going to talk about budgeting with software, and that's going to include using Excel, which we have a template for, and actually uploading the budget into their software if they're using financial software. Module 3, video 1 is going to be on accounts receivable. Module 3, video 2 is going to be on accounts payable and cash flow. Module 4, video 1 will be on reporting and taxes. And Module 4, video 2 is going to be on insurance and closing out your term. So you can see we've kind of tried to go in order with the 5 key areas and just kind of go over each one in a little bit in detail. And then we'll back that up with their questionnaire, which covers material that was in the video, and then just have some online discussion about each topic. And you guys can back that up with your Zoom calls and talk about anything that that group would like to discuss in person. So I'll pause there and see if anybody has any questions about the overview of the content. Still good? Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Obviously, we're not going to sit here and watch videos, but here I've got 5 of these 8 videos done, and I'm hoping to have accounts payable up tonight, and hopefully the other 2 too, because that's what they wanted. But here, these are loaded into YouTube, so you can watch them directly from our website, and you can actually click on them, and it'll have the little expand button, so you can watch full screen if you want. But what I'd like to have happen is that you guys get started taking a look at these modules one by one, watching the videos, and then here on the right-hand side of this one, module 1, video 1, you can see there's some files there that are relevant to it. So the first one is going to be a PowerPoint. I guess I really didn't need to click into that. Accidentally clicked it, so I guess we'll just let it go. Isn't that fun? It's not even the right one. Oh shit. Give me a sec, guys. There we go. I'll take a look at that. I don't know why that one came up. It might have been mislabeled. Like I said, I just put these in there about an hour or 2 ago, so I'll make sure I get that updated. But the PowerPoint that's used in the video is here if you need to use the PowerPoint. There's a PDF here that if you open it up, you can see it says topic 1, post video 1, 5-question quiz. So if you're online and you can see this, it has the 5 questions and the answers. They're all multiple choice or true false. This is the quiz they're going to take at the end of the video, and that way you'll be able, as the facilitator, to see what the questions they're going to get and what the answers are, so you can be prepared for those if they have any questions on them. So each one of those post video quizzes is on the website right next to the video it coincides with. We'll take a look at the online discussions. Now I put the online discussions next to each video, but as we go into the actual download, you can see that the online discussion page has all of them for the all 4 modules. But so here you can see, we'll go over this first one here real quick so you can see what the online discussion is going to look like. Here it says topic 1, online discussion assignment. After completing the online learning for topic number 1, transitioning into the position, respond to the following questions on the group discussion board. Try to formulate your thoughts into 2 or 3 paragraphs. We might have to clarify that. It's 2 to 3 paragraphs total, not 2 to 3 paragraphs for each of the 2 items. I mean, that would be 4 to 6 paragraphs. That's an awful lot. All we're really trying to do with these online discussion assignments is get them talking a little bit before they get on the Zoom calls. And that way, as the facilitator, we want you to be part of that discussion. You can log into Canvas and take a look at what they're saying. And we're also going to be asking them to, or we might be asking them to respond to a couple of the other people in their group. And again, it's just to get some dialogue going. And I think on a facilitation side, it'll be nice because you guys will start to kind of get an idea where their mindset is, what they're thinking. And obviously, when they do it online, it's going to whoever posts it, their name and picture are going to be on there. so you'll know who it is. But it just kind of helps get a feel of where they're at individually. But you can see here question 1 in relation to 5 key areas. Which area do you feel will be the most challenging? If they've been in the position, which one has been? Why do you feel this area will be challenging or has been? And how will you prepare to mitigate the challenge? So this will kind of, this might bring out some of the anxieties they have with the position, especially with all the COVID shit that's going on right now. Some of these guys are going to be facing some pretty uphill battles. I don't think Glenn's on the call with us tonight, but he's part of a housing corporation. And, he was kind of talking about it. I mean, you've got schools that the guys were told they had to leave. So now there's questions. Do I owe rent? Do we not owe rent? Do we got to pay our insurance? Do we not have to pay our insurance? Are these things going to change? What if our school has certain mandates when we come back? What are we supposed to do with that? So that's going to tie into the financial side as well. So we might get some of that stuff coming out in questions like this. And then the second bullet point there, it says respond to at least 2 posts from other group members in the discussion, try and offer some insight or ask a clarifying question or something you've learned from their post. So again, just to get the conversation flowing a little bit before you guys get into the Zoom call. You guys have any questions on the online discussion assignments? I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll let you guys read them, but see if you have any questions about the format. Okay. If you guys want, we can click on this Queester curriculum topic and outline. Again, this is the same in each of the download. I just put it next to the module so it's available. But basically, it goes through each topic in video and just kind of gives a breakdown of what the video talks about. I mean, if you're going to watch the video, you're going to see that. But if you need to go back to it for a reference, the only thing is these were projected times that I put in there. Those are not actually the times they turned out to be. I tried to keep it to the 30 minutes, but some of them, instead of a 15-minute video, it's a 10-minute video for the first one, and the second one's 30 or 20 or vice versa. So you at least have an outline of what we're talking about. And Pete sent that out in his original email. I think I sent that last week in an email, and now you can see it's on the website. So definitely want you guys to start watching these videos and going through that content. And to that point, there's going to be some sort of communication soon where, as a team, we're actually going to go through this material in Canvas, just like the undergrads are going to go through it. So as we get this stuff uploaded into Canvas, I think the launch date for that is scheduled for like July 5th. It'll become available. It's either the 5th or the 10th. We'll be able to get into Canvas and actually go through a tutorial on how to use Canvas, because that's going to be important. A tutorial on how to use Zoom, because that'll be important. And then we will actually go through the modules online, just as the undergrads will, so we can see what they're going to see and experience it the way they're going to experience it. Does that make sense?
It does, Johnny. It does.
Okay. All right, Stumer says enough. Let's move on.
That was actually earlier, but yeah.
I saw that.
I was trying to teach the guys something new that I learned the other day. It was like, this whole, you can just yell Elmo. It's like, enough, let's move on. We got it.
There we go. So in the spirit of Elmo, I probably won't go through all of this, because as you can see, all I've tried to do here, if you're online, you can see Module 1, Video 1, the introduction, Module 1, Video 2, 5 key areas of financial management, and so on. And I've put the content next to the videos there, so you can watch the video, take a look at the content. Just for fun, since I just posted this, I'm going to open up this PowerPoint and see if that one's right. I wonder if I got these all mislabeled. Oh, that's right. 5 key areas of financial management. Perfect. So yeah, the PowerPoints are there if you want to see the presentations that are in the videos. And again, post-video quiz, online discussion assignments, it's all there. If we scroll down You can see the last one that I have entered is module number 3, video 1 on accounts receivable. I'm hoping to have module 3, video 2, accounts payable up late night tonight. And the last 2 are basically going to be just me giving a tutorial on, going through the risk management website and talking a little bit about taxes and reporting. So hopefully that won't take me too long to finish up. But if I could make an ask, I would really like you guys to start watching from module 1, video 1 on, and getting familiar with the content that's in it, as well as looking at the downloads that are on the site as well. And I'll mention this too, because if you guys are going to start doing this, as you go through the videos, each team was kind of tasked with creating their own videos. I know that the videos that I've seen, most of them are, the team lead and maybe another member. Because of time frames, it's been kind of tough to get the content written, try and make it look professional, try and make it not just PowerPoint, which you guys will see, module 1, video 1 is mostly PowerPoint. And then it starts to open up a little bit in module 2, video 2, especially when we talk about time management, because we have templates they can use. But there's certainly area for criticism, and I don't get offended real easy. So you guys can say anything you want to me about the content. I will tell you though, I welcome the feedback. There's really not a lot of time to change anything at this point. Some of the stuff that I'm talking about that's loaded up on the website, literally got published last night at like 3 in the morning. So if they're minor things, they might be able to be changed, but a lot of the video embeds and stuff that are created right now are kind of solidified. So I would say first go around, if you see something glaring that's a problem, please let me know. If you have suggestions, let's definitely write those down, because hopefully when we open this up after workshop and start creating more detailed materials for the undergrads after workshop, for future learning, we definitely want to include, your guys' feedback on it, because at this point it's people hearing me talk, and that, Elmo, right, Stu? Who wants to hear me talk that much? But yeah, there's definitely room for improvement in the future. So let's get those ideas down as you're going through the content so we can improve it. Pause there for a second. I mean, this is the majority of what we had to talk about, was what's going on and where we're at with it. So I'll take a look here and see on my email and see if there's anything.
Everyone's on mute, so it's gonna.
Are they? Yeah. Well, I guess if they have questions, they can unmute themselves.
Yeah, Phil's saying he doesn't think there's going to be much criticism. So.
Okay. Somebody just left us.
Oh, Phil, you missed the Elmo comment earlier. So Elmo is, someone brought it up to me the other day. It's for conference calls. Elmo, it stands for enough. Let's move on.
Oh, I got the abbreviation. I was saying, have we had enough? Is it time to move on?
I thought maybe you were side with the baby and missed that part. So.
No, absolutely not. I think it's amazing that you've basically taken what has historically been an 11-month curriculum development process, and you've compressed it into 3 months, and then you've presented it into a new format where we've taken what is a continuous 4-day in-person experience, and we've compressed it down into an online format that's digestible basically in evenings and off time for the undergraduates. Anybody who understands what has just been accomplished or has a chapter mate explain it to them is not going to be critical of how we're doing this. If anything, I'll bet you most of them are going to be pretty impressed.
Well, I can tell you, Phil, that from a Team Croc perspective, all those guys are working really hard to try and make this work out. So, the comments are certainly appreciated, as we roll this out. We know that, this is a good spot to say, we know there's going to be issues. We know there's going to be glitches. We know it's not going to be perfect in a lot of aspects, but, I don't even know how to paraphrase it right, but, Jeff Twyble was talking to us in our last Team Croc meeting on last Tuesday. And he said, there are other organizations that are just canceling everything that they were doing. And, he said, here's Sigma Chi saying, you know what? it doesn't matter that we don't have the opportunity to get together to do this stuff in person. We're going to use this as an opportunity to create something completely new, and not just create it new for this year, but make sure it's something we can build on for the future. And yeah, we want to get back to the original structure next year, provided all this crap's over, and we hope it is. But what an opportunity for us to find a new way to learn with our undergrads. And who knows? I mean, this might actually open up the communication that we have with our undergrads in a lot of ways. So, yeah, let's roll through it knowing it's not going to be perfect, but let's keep in mind that we have a hell of an opportunity ahead of us, and that opportunity is only going to work if you guys give your feedback on how it's going after it's over, how it went, how do we make the content better than it was, and just kind of rolling with the punches, realizing that, you might even see when you watch the videos, there's a couple videos you can probably tell in my voice. It's like, yeah, he did that at 2 a.m. We're going to make it better. But that's going to be the effort of this team after workshop. So I'm excited for that as well. So it's going to be interesting. That's for sure. I guess maybe the only other thing I'll ask that I really haven't touched on is the teams. I already sent a list of facilitator pairings that I wanted to see, because they asked us to do that. Then in the survey, they put the time frames in for Zoom. So that's something we have to kind of reevaluate. That way I don't have pairings together, people that are in 2 different time zones and or unavailable for certain times. So I think they sent that out to us yesterday afternoon. So I'll get a look at that. The goal is to have 2 facilitators for each group, and each facilitator is going to kind of have their own role. The first role is going to be, as a facilitator, somebody who's actually going to drive the conversation. And then the second role, they're calling a chatter, is somebody who's going to monitor the technology, monitor the chat board. And I hope I was clear in here in the email. Like, absolutely, the chatter is a facilitator. The chatter is supposed to be engaged in the conversation. The goal was to have 2 people to help monitor the environment, and they did this out in California in one of their province conferences. They did it virtually, and they came back to Team Croc, and members of Team Croc were part of it to give feedback. And that was one of the feedback points was certain people were facilitating on their own, and it was like, man, to drive the conversation and the technology and the chat board and stay engaged with everything that's going on in the virtual environment was just way too much for one person. So that's one of the reasons coming out of that. They said, for sure, we want to make sure that every team has 2 facilitators on it. But again, each facilitator needs to be involved in the discussion. The chatter's not supposed to just do the technical shit and not be part of it. We want to make sure that everybody's included. But we'll get into the dynamic of that a little bit more as we go along. And here's another thing to keep in mind. It's kind of like a full open thought to everybody. This is a different environment. Facilitating online is not facilitating in person. And as amazing as our team is in all aspects, we're all going to have different skill sets. And when we get into this virtual environment, those skill sets could change a little bit. So we want to keep that in mind, that, just because we're an incredible facilitator in person doesn't mean that we're not going to have challenges online. And we want to recognize that. And we want to pair people together. Hopefully the time frames work out, that we can pair people together that bring strengths out from both facilitators that fit this environment the best. Because I haven't personally facilitated an online discussion other than our calls, and that's pretty informal in a lot of ways. And you guys know me, so if I'm not, if I swear or say a thing a little off color or whatever, like you guys know who I am and whatnot. You're starting a brand new environment with a group of undergrads you don't know, and we want to try and bring that team approach so that we're getting the best out of both facilitators to provide the best environment for the undergrads to learn. So keep in mind, as we ramp up for this thing, not only are we asking you to get caught up on the content, and also getting caught up on how to use Zoom and Canvas, I'm going to be asking a lot. I'm going to ask you guys to be in contact, actually having phone calls one-on-one, with the other person that you're facilitating with, so that you guys can get in sync with how you want to do this. I think that's going to be really, really important when we actually get into that environment. And keep in mind, we've been on this call for about 50 minutes. An hour is not a long time. And, when they've gone through a whole module on a topic and you've got 1 hour, I want to make sure that our teams are in lockstep with how they're going to spend that hour. And, I know I can count on you guys for that. But I try not to be someone who puts a lot of pressure on a team, but I can tell you something, man. The Queister division's been getting looked at, the last couple of years with the things that we've developed and that we've done and the success that we're having as a team, because you guys are fucking rock stars. I want to make sure that coming out of this, people are looking at it and going, yeah, they did it right. Because this really is a learning opportunity for the fraternity. It's a learning opportunity for Team Croc and for all of our facilitators on how we can push further into the future, especially now that we've got this, this new designation as a Institute of Higher Education, which I'm sure most of you have heard by now with Sigma Chi Leadership Institute. We're pushing big into the future and what Sigma Chi can accomplish in the collegiate environment. So I want us to remain the leaders of that environment and how we deliver content and learning, leadership learning to our undergrads. So that's really a testament to all the hard work that you guys have put into this the last 2 or 3 years. Trust me, it has shown, and the people in the fraternity are not bashful about telling me that there's buzz around this team, and I want to keep that buzz going. And that has nothing to do with the efforts that Team Croc or any individual's doing right now. I want to watch this team shine in front of the fraternity as it has been, and people want to emulate our success in it because that's what they've been doing. And I'm gonna be honest, that's where some of this came from. Some of these outlines, some of these content topics and whatnot came from the things that you guys have built and done over the last couple of years, especially the incorporation of leadership into the position. I think Stu and Wes and Dan and Mitch, kind of put that together and then trained it out. These things are getting noticed. So kudos to you guys, and I'm really excited for this opportunity to try a new way of learning in Sigma Chi. And I'm going to Elmo myself because I got a little worry there.
I was going to actually jump in because I see Chris DiGiotti actually was asking the question if there was a section for virtual icebreakers. And we actually had this conversation trying to figure out how to do this. And I think the challenge is we've only got an hour each section. And if we, so that means and Riggs made this statement one time. He said, there are quick icebreakers and there are good icebreakers, and they don't always overlap. And so I think that's one of those things that I think we need to still spend some time thinking amongst ourselves about how to go about doing that, how to get people to relax, how to get people to engage. In other words, Chris, I don't know if I have an answer on that. Anybody else have any experiences with good icebreakers virtually?
Well, I'll jump in here real quick, Stu, and let you know. So if I remember correctly from our last Team Croc call, initially they told us because of time constraints and everything we were trying to develop, they were probably not going to have icebreakers, ideas coming down from the curriculum team. If I remember right, I think they're actually trying to work on that a little bit. So we might get a little help with that, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't continue the conversation amongst the group and come up with our own. So I just wanted to add that in.
I think it's important to have something there. I think the challenge is how do we keep it limited? If we've got 8 guys, a total of 9 or 10 of us total, including the facilitators, how do we get through that in 5 minutes? I think that's one of those things, that means you basically have 30 seconds per person to instruct and go through. So I think that's one of those things that it's a challenge, but I don't think you want to spend too much time on it. You just want to try to get people talking and engaged. But my opinion.
Well, and I don't know if anybody on this call is doing any work with undergraduate chapters. I currently have not been really, but it might be worthwhile if anybody is and can chime in. I mean, maybe we ought to connect with some undergrads, tell them what's coming up in this, and say, hey, if you had to hop online with 7 other dudes from all over that you don't know, the only commonality you really have is that you're a Sigma Chi and you're both Queesters. What do you think would be the best way to get to know one another pretty quickly, and or what do you think is relevant to talk about and ask? Because I think that the icebreaker, since we can't do it in person and have like an activity necessarily that goes with it, what's going to be the most meaningful thing for them to share that gets them connected and also gets us into the discussion as fast as possible. So if anybody has the ability to do that, let me know, and I might share that out with some people and see if we can get some of the young guys to tell us. I mean, they live in this environment a lot more than we do, so let's find out how they do it.
Hey, Johnny,
Yeah,
I work with the University of South Florida, and I'm in touch with the executive committee. I'd be happy to run that up the flagpole and see what we get.
If you could, Bill, that'd be awesome. And if you hear anything, if you're able to either put it on our Slack or respond to one of the emails that went out to the whole group, that'd be awesome.
I've been working.
I can do that for the promises and chapters that I support as well.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that.
I've been working with young single adults in the New Orleans area through my church. I've been tasked to basically help seed a congregation of young singles, and we've been meeting virtually 1 hour at a time every week for the last 3 months. And we've actually come up with some ways to help build a virtual bond and icebreakers and activities. And I could send you some of that stuff if you want.
Yeah, shoot them to me, Phil. Let's take a look at them.
Yeah, some of them are pretty easy.
Cool. Well, I think if Bill and Dan and Phil can put some of that information together for us and see what they can find and get back to us, if I could put a time frame on, if we can try and get it within a week. I know that's a short time frame, but we're on a short time frame. That would be really, really helpful.
I'll get it to you this week.
Thanks, brother. I guess really the last thing is, what should you do right now? And I think I kind of already went through that in the email. Just get started with the video. Sorry, I'm getting a little feedback here. One of the things I'm going to do is also on the website here, where you can see the video and the module and the video and the downloads next to it. If there is a resource in the video, such as one of the time management tools, the budget builder, which includes a chapter or a check register and an accounts payable register, I'll put that download next to the video here, and that way that's available online too for you to download. And maybe that's worth a quick mention is we're going to be using some things this team has not used in the past. The budget builder's been around for a while, but we really haven't used it or needed to use it. But now we're going to be presenting it to undergrads as a resource. I don't expect every facilitator to be an expert in using these tools, but I would like you to, watch the video, understand how it works, and at least open it up and just play with it for a few minutes and hit me up with any questions that you have so that, again, I don't expect anybody to be experts on that. On the software, I'm using Greek Bill. Greek Bill set me up a training account because I asked him to. And although all the dates are like 4 days apart, because I just had to go in and start throwing data in so I could use it for the examples. There is a little receivables list to look at and a budget to look at. And by the time I finish it tonight, there'll be a budget to actual to look at. I don't expect you guys to be able to get into Greek Bill because you don't even have logins, but just to understand a little bit of how the templates work, to kind of understand the translation between using some of those resources and how that would translate to their financial management system. Again, I know everybody in the group's not an accountant, but we're going to have to dive in a little bit on the financial side of things and try and understand it on the undergraduate level, at least, to answer, you know, any questions they might have. And certainly if it's not something that's relevant to a Zoom call, the Zoom call is not, you know, a tutorial on how to use this shit. Technical questions can be pushed to me, and, you know, even individually, I'll be happy to connect with these undergrads or jump into a call or do whatever I have to do to help them get up to speed. But no matter the financial software they use, every single one of the financial softwares has their own training videos. Most of these softwares now, they have their own reps, like Greek Bill, LegFi. The chapter has a rep assigned to them. So, you know, if they're starting to ask questions relevant to, well, hey, how do I use my software? How do I actually, you know, get to that part of the budget and enter it? You know, those are really things that they can touch base with their representatives from the third-party vendor to learn. So I don't want you to know all that kind of shit, obviously, but just to kind of be in tune with the information that's in there and how to use the resources. So I'll get those up on the website. Give me a day.
Hey, Johnny, it's Dan. I have a question for you. Since there's a lot being still developed and could change, is there anything that we shouldn't wait for, or we know for sure is probably not going to come down the pipeline that we either as a team need to figure out or as individual facilitators need to start figuring out?
If I'm understanding you right on that question, Dan, I will say that the videos that I have put up on the website that are there now, that content won't change. Within the next 2 or 3 days, that shit's going to start getting loaded into Canvas. And once it's up, it's up. So that information should not change in any way unless there's a glaring problem. And like I told you guys, if you're going through this and you see something big, you know, not me just making a little, misstep or tripping on a word or two, I'm talking something big, let me know and we'll revamp it. And let me give you an example. I just noticed it today when I was watching the video I put up, because the module 3 video 1, I haven't even watched that in its entirety on the website to make sure it processed correctly. When I go through one of the portions of accounts receivable and collections, I talk about some of the collection resources, such as creating a financial contract with the members, creating payment plans, 30, 60, 90-day letters. As I'm going through it, I talk about a 90-day letter as being a precursor to financial suspension. I never mentioned Form 50. Maybe when we build this out at the end, Form 50 is relevant. But I didn't get into the actual process of how to suspend somebody from the fraternity, for good. The 90-day letter includes some of that language, and it lets them know that they're on suspension, and if they pay the fees that they owe, they can be reinstated. But I never mentioned Form 50. I can tell you that going back to mention Form 50 is not something that I will alter that video for at this point, simply because of time, not because I don't want to acknowledge that it should be in there, because it should. It's just now we're just pressed for time. So, that's just one example of how, there's going to be certain things that could be missing. But if you're seeing it on the website, chances are that that's a 99%er. That's the content that's going up online. And to give you an idea, guys, I tried to make this as comprehensive and professional as possible. I'm obviously not somebody who creates videos and shit all the time. So, but I mean, some of the teams are literally having Zoom calls with PowerPoints, and that's the entirety of their content, is talking together over the PowerPoint over a Zoom. So everybody's kind of taking a different approach. But at this point, I think the content we have up, Dan, is good enough to roll with for now. And if there are any major changes, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. Do you know potentially when we would? I know the deadline registration hasn't passed yet, but do you know potentially when we would know our small groups so we could start reaching out to them?
So that's really on me. I need to sort that out. Like I think I mentioned earlier, we were waiting for HQ to send us your guys' responses to the registration and the timeframes that work for you. I believe I have that now. I have not opened it, but I saw the email come in, or the Slack announcement. So I have to get these videos done in the next day or two. So I will focus on that. So if you could give me to the end of the week, and I should be able to sort that out so that you guys have, a solid 3 to 4 weeks. Well, I guess at this point it would only be 3. Man, our timeframes are tight, guys, and I realize that. But I'll try and get that out to you guys by the end of the week so you can start connecting with your facilitation partner. It's a good question and a good point, Dan.
And I think to add to Dan's question, yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I wasn't asking about the facilitation partner, more so the undergrads.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the.
No, that's okay.
You're talking about the actual small group.
Yeah.
So when we were on our Team Croc call last week, as far as that's concerned, I think they're trying to make like the final registration, like a week or two from now. But they're seeing the same trends in registration from undergrads as they do for workshop. It's creep, and then wham, like they wait to the deadline, and everybody registers on the day, the deadline day or the day before, and then we still get a significant group of guys that try to register after, which when we do the in-person workshop, we have like 3 hard deadlines that we talk about on the back end, because we kind of still let late registration. They're trying to mitigate that for this year, but it really could be right up to the time that you find that out. I don't have that answer yet. It's going to be tight. I can tell you that. You're going to be finding out who your small group is probably very, very close to launch date. And I think you got it, brother. I think somebody else was trying to jump in there. I don't know who that was.
I was jumping in to ask the same question.
Oh, okay.
So we're good.
And if I failed to mention, I don't think I did, like, guys, it is not lost on me what I'm asking you to do, and what Team Croc is asking you guys to do, and what Sigma Chi is asking you guys to do. This is nuts, but it's nuts in a good way. I know there's a lot to accomplish in the next, however many days it is, 26 days before this launches. But, I can appreciate the amount of time it's going to take you guys to get up to speed and you're going to spend. And just please know that I know what you're going through. And I can't tell you how appreciative I am that you're willing to do this, and proud of this group for taking it on. So thank you again. I don't have any other big announcements, I don't think, for our call tonight. I'll kind of see if there's any, final questions, and then, if anybody has to go. I know we're about 15 minutes past our hour. I wouldn't mind doing a quick around the room just to kind of get a pulse to see where everybody's at. I've thrown a shit ton of stuff at you, and I'm just kind of interested to see where we're at. Hasn't been a lot of comments, so I feel like you guys are pretty steady, but I'd like to hear what's going on. So are there any final questions on anything that we've gone over first, as far as content wise or structure wise? Seeing none. Well, why don't we kind of take a little trip around the room and just kind of get a pulse, little candle pass, see how we're doing. I don't know who caller 2 is. Maybe we should try and figure that out.
Is this Jody?
What's that?
Is this Jody or McFadden?
Yeah, I think I'm caller 2 because I'm on computer and phone.
Oh, okay. Actually, we haven't. Mike McFadden, it looks like you're on the web, brother. I don't know if you've just been on mute this whole time, or if you're not connected to talk. But if you are, like, how's it going, man? How you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, I was just on mute this whole time. Yeah, doing well. Just I'm actually down in Louisville, Kentucky right now visiting my sister. So, yeah.
Well, I haven't heard from you yet on any questions. How you feeling, man? That's a lot of stuff thrown out there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot. Fortunately, work is very slow for me right now, so I'm going to be able to really kind of dive into this and, obviously watch the videos and really look through everything. So yeah, it'll be a lot, but I'll take some notes as I go, and like you said, we'll adapt and do what we have to do to make this as successful as possible.
Awesome, brother. Glad to have you with us, man.
I appreciate being back.
Yeah, brother. How about Bill? Bill, you want to chime in here and let us know how you're doing?
Well, good to see everybody and hear your voices. I'm looking forward to this. I'm staying pretty close to home. We're safe and we're healthy. We're not doing any traveling. So I'm like McFadden. I've got some time and I'll get into the videos and look things over and I'll be ready to go.
Awesome, brother. Thank you. Phil. Still with us?
I'm here.
Awesome.
I can even give you video. That's terrible. There we go. That's better. Doing good, actually. This format actually meets kind of my family needs right now at the moment, a lot better than traveling for a few days would have in August, so that's really nice. Ever positive, I'm excited about the opportunities that this kind of makeshift one-off curriculum is going to present, particularly as far as like the content that's going to be developed and how that might be adapted in the future to other purposes. As always, I'm just happy to be with the brothers. Happy to be with Chapter Queester. So it's a good day every time.
Awesome, brother. Thank you. Let's see who else we got. Congista.
I feel pretty good. I feel like all the people that are doing a lot of work behind the scenes makes it so much easier to prepare. We have a pretty tight timeline, so I think the main thing just trying to focus on is how to be a good virtual facilitator, which I recognize is definitely different than being a good in-person facilitator, and then how to time manage that hour properly. We have 4 meetings for an hour, and that flies by. So yeah, I think those are just a little bit of a curveball outside of kind of like normal workshop prep. So I feel pretty good, but I feel like over the next few weeks, hearing from other people what they find has been really useful will definitely help me be successful. On top of my own prep, not gonna rely on everyone here.
Awesome, brother. Thanks for sharing that. How about Ben?
Hey boys, good to hear your voices again, and glad to be back for another year, even though it's virtual, all things considered. I think I'll be able to give a better answer about the material after I dive into it, but I'm kind of with Dan. I think I just need to adjust to being a virtual facilitator rather than an in-person facilitator. So that will take, some adjusting, but, if one thing that Simika has taught me, it's definitely adjusting and adapting to situations. So just like the past couple of years that we've gotten different material thrown at us, I'm comfortable that, we'll adapt to it just fine how we have in years past. So, but I'm excited to be back. I think this is a good opportunity, like to Phil's point, that we can do something special with this and run with it. So, but yeah, overall I feel good. It's a short time frame, and I'm worried that maybe an hour per session isn't enough time, but the end of the day, we'll be all right.
Before we move on, since you mentioned it, Ben, I mean, the whole 1 hour at a time thing and 4 total on the Zoom meetings, I share that as a kind of a concern, and interested to see how that goes. But I'm interested to see your guys' feedback on that and how we can make it work. So I share that concern, and I know we'll find a way to make it meaningful. But I think that's something to point out, that as we move forward, getting into this content and you start working with your facilitation partner, that's a big part of the discussion, is how do we maximize the 1 hour sessions and plan them out for 4 hours total. So that's a good point. Sujati, jump in here, brother.
I just saw Stu drink something. Is this question? Is this a dry workshop gavel again, or?
Well, you can see that with no liquid in there anymore.
Yours is empty. Mine's Diet Mountain Dew, so I'm being hey.
Because he was up doing this stuff at 3 a.m. That's why he needs the Diet Mountain Dew for the caffeine.
Amen, brother.
I think it's going to go well. This is all brand new to everyone, so I don't think they're going to expect the bar to be like, if we make a mistake, they're not going to really even probably notice. I know the undergrads are pretty knowledgeable in streaming and video chatting via phone or computer, so I think they'll be pretty well versed in this. And plus, they do all their like pledge material stuff already online, so there's nothing really that seems to change, and they've already pivoted to doing a format virtually. I did hear a couple of undergrads that I work with the University of Houston Colony just complaining about like their professors didn't know how to operate the technology, or it was that kind of stuff. So I'm glad we are paired with another facilitator. I think that will help a lot in terms of figuring stuff out as we go. Most likely, because of the time restraints, we probably have to start on time and not kind of like wait around for other undergrads to jump in and say, okay, we'll give them our 10 minutes. Next thing you know, it's like we only have 45 minutes left, right? So I guess everything looks good so far. I'm glad we're able to do this online.
Well, hey, brother, I'll mention this because you were kind of getting into that realm there a little bit, as far as the guys showing up to the Zoom meetings on time and when you're going to get started. Great point that you guys are going to have to start that hour when that hour starts. But in relationship to that, there is going to be an incentive program similar to the travel stipend that the undergrads are going to have for attending their sessions. And obviously, since this is online, all the stuff through the Canvas system is going to be able to be monitored as far as when they're in there and when they post things. I don't know if Zoom does that or it has that functionality. Yeah, and I see Stu shaking his head. I'm not sure it does, and we'll kind of see. I don't know if it changes with a business account and what we're going to get through Sigma Chi, but they are going to be given incentives to show up to those meetings. As far as attendance, if you have to take attendance on Zoom, we want you to be honest about that attendance, and we'll just roll with it. But to your point, Chris, waiting around for our Zoom calls probably won't be an option. So excellent observation.
Johnny, a quick question on that. Zoom has the capability of recording sessions. Should we consider recording some of our sessions and allowing the undergrads to watch them again?
You know what, Stu? I'm going to make a note on that, and I'm going to run that by everybody on our Team Croc call. I don't know if I think that's something I should get clarity on rather than just saying what it is, because I don't know all the nuances of making these into official recording. I would assume it's not a problem, especially because they're attendees of a seminar. But let me find that out. That's a good question.
I'm sure it'll come up in your conversation, but I know we have these sensitive conversations on occasion, and even though an online format is less likely to bring those up, I feel like recording would tend to hamper those discussions, brother's not going to talk about hazing or passing the hat or any of that sort of stuff, you know, and give us an opportunity to help them right the ship if they know that it's being recorded.
Yeah, it's a good point, Phil.
And we'll bring that up in our next Team Croc call, and we'll kind of get that committee talking about that and seeing what their ideas are on that. I think one of the things that with the different focus of the content this year, I don't know how much our particular conversations in Team Queester will go in those kinds of directions. Certainly, Team Console and Team McGeester and stuff are going to get into those conversations a little bit more. But I will say that, there could be some people that are really focused on this COVID thing. There could be some people that, are certainly experiencing things like depression or anxiety because of the changing times and the environment. So we certainly want to be cognizant of that in our discussions. And, again, whether we record them or not, we'll get directive on that. But, those are some things, to your point, Phil, that could start coming up where, even though we think we're going to be spending an entire hour or the entire 4 hours between the 4 calls talking about nothing but debits and credits, I think this group knows that that's not always what happens. So as a facilitation group, especially the guy that you're paired with, something to be aware of and probably have a conversation ahead of time. And, certainly I want to have 1 or 2 more phone calls, hopefully get the whole team on to talk about those things leading up as far as facilitation, skills more specifically, because those are the kind of items we want to make sure that come out. Hey guys, have this discussion, know how you're going to handle that if that comes up, because, we've had some of those discussions on the back end. Those are actual realities that with the changes, especially with Queesters who have to manage the money and some of the changes that have happened. I mean, some guys have just flat out just left school and haven't paid a dime of their dues, and Queester doesn't know whether he's got to pay it all when he gets back. I mean, from our standpoint as alumni, we look at that as a pain in the ass. From an undergraduate standpoint, that could heap on a lot of anxiety, in conjunction with them having to finish out the school year, people potentially losing their jobs. Keep in mind, a lot of the jobs that got cut and the shutdown orders and all that stuff in a lot of states affected the type of jobs these guys have. So we don't know what kind of financial strains they're going through, or the conversations that our Queester are having with brothers that are in that position who can't pay their dues. So I think that's something we're certainly going to have to be sensitive of as we navigate this environment and navigate these discussions. So great point. Dan Benoit, man, jump in, brother.
Yeah, well, I think you actually brought something up when you're saying that it's typically easier for us to do when we're on site, which is, besides the planned sessions, we're probably going to need to make ourselves available to talk to any brother offline. Maybe again, what do I do? I've just been told, the brother's lost his job, or his parents have lost their job, or they've been furloughed, and so they don't have any money come in, so they can't pay the bills. How do we treat that going forward? So there's probably, I think we need to be prepared that there's probably going to be a need for us to make ourselves available outside of the online sessions that we have with our undergraduates, so that if there are things that they want to talk to us about specifically, that they may not feel comfortable talking about in a large group, that they know that we are available for that. I do, Johnny, you gotta give a shout out to you for all the work that you're doing on this curriculum. As Phil said and everyone has said, I mean, the amount of work that you put in the past couple of months, pulling together, may not sound like 2 hours of material is hard, but doing that professionally, I know how much work it takes to create 2 hours worth of material. It's oftentimes exponentially that amount of time that you have to put into it to prepare it. So Johnny, we couldn't do this without you. So thank you very much for all the hard work that you've you put into that. And I think I can say, we're all going to have your back, and looking forward to the virtual KTLW this year.
Well, I appreciate that, Dan. If I could say too, as you guys know, or hopefully should know, because I've mentioned it a couple times, Dan's been helping write, a lot of this content as well. And, Dan, hopefully when you get to the financial committee section and, see it's only about 4 minutes worth of video or 5 minutes worth of video, that's definitely something I think that we need to expand upon on the virtual side moving forward. Certainly try and find a way to pare this stuff down into the 2 hours that they gave us with all the topics that we have to cover has not been that easy. But I don't want the content that's been created now to, I don't know what the word is, not overshadow, but, kind of show what it's going to look like moving forward. Because, with the stuff that Dan put together in the financial committee module, the stuff that I know you're working on with, member accountability, and I think we've got a couple more to write after this is over. What we've had to create to make VKTLW work is certainly not the full representation of what's coming for Team Queester. So I appreciate your comments, Dan, and I certainly appreciate everything you've created. I can tell you, trying to create, the video, and I can't tell you how much has been left on the cutting room floor as far as trying to talk and say these things right. I've deleted more videos than I've saved by far. But getting to that section, even if it's only 5 minutes of content, 5 minutes of videos, actually quite a bit to write and whatnot, and be able to rely on the resources you've already written for Team Queester. Man, to print out what you wrote, Dan, highlight it, and then hit record and start talking, you've saved me a lot of time. So I thank you in return for all the hard work you're doing, because it certainly has made this a lot easier. And, I hope moving forward too, guys, and keep this in mind, that, I'm not the only one on these damn videos moving forward. I've done it out of necessity here, because it's not my forte. I don't know how to include everybody in that process with the timetables we've been given, but that's certainly something we can explore, because if a group of people needs to see, more than just me talking, it's anybody. Anybody needs to see more than just me talking. So, yeah, I'm excited for what it's going to expand to in the future. So we got a heavy lift, but, Dan, loved having you on as a partner on that. And I look forward to what we're going to continue to create together and as a team. So thank you. Looks like Kyle just jumped in, and you're actually catching us on our candle pass here. I saw your message that you're going to be a little late. So we spent the call kind of going over where we're at so far, and kind of going over the materials that I put up on teamqueester.com for everybody to start going through. So hate to have you jump into a candle pass without knowing the full context of what we're talking about, but if you could give us some reactions on where you're at, realizing that BKTLW is only 3 weeks away, and just kind of where you're at as far as getting prepared for it, I suppose, or what you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think one of the best things I've done on this is I've kind of reduced the amount of Zooms and other shit I've been doing on that end for the last 2 weeks. So I'll probably be more excited to do this now. I definitely hit the video chat Zoom fatigue like crazy. So thankfully rowing is in person again, and that's not over that for other things. So that's kind of got me a little bit more excited going forward into this right now. Johnny, the lesson plan curriculum stuff you sent over looks pretty similar to what you went over, but I mean, I know you slaved over that to try to get it the right way, and we set the standard over pretty much what the rest of KTLW does. So looks pretty solid right there. Hopefully I get the time slot I want. So I'm excited at this point. Cautiously optimistic, because I think it's going to be straightforward. But yeah, there's my, I've only been on this for 30 seconds and heard your voice candle pass reaction right there.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Stu, why don't you go ahead, brother? Oh yeah, good question.
I don't want to jerk the candle, but I do want to jerk the candle back to me. Somebody mentioned, like, yeah, I said jerking twice, 3 times now.
It was just a softball pitch, Pete. I'm sorry. I was like,
It's okay. It's being recorded. It's for posterity.
right.
So in the past, with registration, headquarters has always had somebody appointed to make sure that all the chapters were in good financial standing. Is there a process in place for this since we're going virtual? And if there are going to be chapters that are financially distressed, are we going to be alerted to their status?
I don't know that for sure, and it's certainly a question I can ask Phil to find out if they have the financial status. Because I think let me write that as a no. Because let me say something I think is going to be kind of interesting. Is what is potentially going to change with regard to headquarters and their view of financial status in light of what's happened. I don't know if deadlines are going to get pushed or, they're going to change certain parameters around what the chapters owe, but we need to find that out because that could, with everything that's happened, that could change. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. If we have that information, if we can get that information, then, I think that that's something we'll push out and share. But I also know that headquarters is really ramped up right now and probably bottlenecked on a lot of things because of what they're trying to do to support all these efforts. So I just don't know what we're going to have access to. But let me find out and I'll get back to you guys on it.
I don't even need to know. I just, if some of them are going to be coming in with financial straits, eventually, it always comes up and they want to know who to talk to. If we at least just have a communication channel established so that we can address issues, that could potentially come up around finances, that would be great.
Sure. Well, I would say quick, if questions like this come up after the fact, I want you guys to feel free to get them out on Slack in our Q Team Slack channel. Let's start using that again and using that as a platform to ask those kind of questions. I'll give you an example. There have been some changes that have been made to RMF, and I guess I didn't mention this earlier, and I should have. I told you there was a 5th module that's not in any of the content I've sent to you. Actually, I take that back. I think it is actually at least in the 5-question quiz, and it might be in the outline. We've been asked as Team Queister from Mike Church directly to include RMF changes that have happened because of COVID. A couple of those changes, just real briefly, are the per member fee from last year, which is $197, will remain the same for the 2020-2021 academic year. So they will not see an increase. There's also going to be a 25% decrease in membership numbers. So the 197 stays the same, but as an example, if you have 100 members in your chapter, you're going to pay for 75. So when that module comes out, take a look because I'm going to clarify that and state it a little bit better, hopefully, to kind of clarify that because we're anticipating already that we're going to have undergrads that are going to say, hey, did our insurance change? Our campus said we couldn't be on campus. They made us cancel our events. So our liability should have gone down. None of those things really are impacted by what has happened. It's, the liability insurance is a per member basis. It has nothing to do with events. Certainly having a chapter house changes that. And there's other items that are going to change that, like whatever their claim history is and all that. But we want to be prepared for those questions if they come up and know that. And to your point, Phil, about chapter financial status, we have to see if headquarters has made updates like RMF has as far as the parameters, what they're going to allow and not allow with regard to the financial accounts. So it's a good point, and we should know that going into workshop. Stu, why don't you take over?
Yeah, so there's a lot of good and a lot of bad right now. Well, maybe not a lot of bad, but there's a lot of goodness right now. One of the things I was thinking about with this earlier, besides the fact that we're only 3 weeks away, but I was thinking about the fact that, some of the things that we've complained about in past years was having to jump from one subject to another with, no change at all, no time at all. So you'd go straight from doing leadership training or doing chapter assignments to suddenly doing some of the Queester things. Well, this gives us a little bit of time to focus on just one side of that. Now, the downside to that is also, we're not going to be spending time on the leadership training, which is, that's obviously a little disappointing. But I think in this case this year, it's made us kind of prioritize what the most important things are right now. And I think that, especially under the circumstances, I think this is going to be a really, really important topic. And I'm hopeful that we're going to get more guys attending who might otherwise not have. And I think that's a great opportunity to expose those guys to some of the things we have. One of the downsides is many of us don't have that much experience with Zoom or running these meetings ourselves. So I told Johnny I'd try to put some time together and put it on the calendar for us to go through and do a little overview session on how to use Zoom, how to host those things, and some of the capabilities. It does beg one question, Johnny, that I'd ask you to add to your list, which is, when will we get our account information that we will use? Because again, I'm happy to use my own for any of our training stuff and everything, but I figure when we get into the sessions, they probably want us to use the Sigma Chi Zoom channel. So I figured that would be important for us to do, is get that information as well. So if we can get that ahead of time, it will help us let everyone get in and play with it a little bit to make sure that they know how to use it. But I'm excited about it. I'm getting ready to go. It's, again, a completely different approach than we've had. But I still think we've got a great opportunity to impact these guys and give them some value and let them see the fraternity at a much wider picture than what they might have experienced from their chapter alone. And I think that's one of the best parts about this. That and working with you guys. And that's actually serious. That's not smart ass, for once.
We appreciate that, Stu. We never know when you're being serious.
Really solid point there, Johnny.
I will say, Stu, that to my understanding from our last Team Croc call, there will be a Zoom learning module for facilitators in Canvas when you guys get your Canvas logins. So I'll check on that. We'll have a Team Croc call tomorrow, and I'll ask this because I would assume, I hate to assume, that if they're going to train us on Zoom, then we'll have the ability to log into it as well. So I think that we're going to be asked to use, I would assume, again, we're going to be asked to use only the Sigma Chi accounts because they're going to come with, what do you call those, the meeting IDs or passwords or whatever it is to avoid the whole shit or whatever. So it's an excellent question. I'll find that out because I think that would go hand in hand with the training.
Yep.
Petey, man, brother.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, we can.
All right. I didn't hear if you were talking to me or not, but yeah, I want to echo what Stu said, man. I mean, we're on a very short time frame. I think managing our time with a little bit that we're going to have is going to be key, and going over the the videos and the content along with the undergraduates is going to allow us to be able to lead a good discussion through the hour that we have allotted to us, because there's not going to be a whole lot of time for small talk. Dan said earlier, we're going to have to be, make ourselves available for after that hour of discussion to be able to take care of some of those questions that the undergraduates may have, because our time frames are going to be so short. But 1 hour is tight, and I think we're going to need to concentrate on the material and just try to have the best virtual workshop that we can. I mean, this is a new one for all of us. I think it's it's very very short time frame, and it kind of always is. We always kind of throw things at the last minute, and we always make it work one way or the other. So I think we're just going to have to go through the material just like the undergraduates do, and be able to facilitate it in the time that we have available to us. And if we have to stay on the call after the class, if we're able to, then that's going to be good if the undergraduates want to continue the class. And I think also what Stu said about having our own account information to be able to. I've been on a lot of Zoom calls. In fact, I'm quite zoomed out by now. But I've never actually ran one on my own. So I want to be able to have a couple of those before before we go live. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting workshop, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it, man. Stu, I got your text, man. I haven't seen, as far as Zoom training, I haven't seen what Sigma Chi is supposedly putting together, but I think it's coming from the instructional design team, the IDT. So I think that if anybody knows who Abby is from HQ, I think she's putting together not only the Zoom but the Canvas training. So hopefully it's pretty good, and I assume if she's doing it, it is. But that doesn't stop us from having additional tutorials, especially if people from the team think they're struggling with that. I mean, tonight's call is a little bit different. I mean, the executive team calls that we've had, Stu has set them up in Zoom and he's managed them all. So, I mean, I am certainly for, regardless of what the materials are from HQ, having a call for anybody that wants to join and, go through some Zoom training from your perspective as well, Stu, because you've done it quite a bit. So I think we ought to do that no matter what. As far as next call, it's insane to me that we're only 3 weeks away. I'm thinking that we need to have a call next week and probably the week after. And, tonight we got about half the team on. So I think I want to make that available so that we can get as many people as we can. I'll probably do it in or what's this called? Not Canvas. GoToMeeting again. I'll try and send out some information for a call next week, and maybe I'll change the day. I don't know if Monday's a bad day for people or not, but I know typically we've done them on Wednesdays. Maybe I'll try and set it up for Wednesday next week. But I'd set this one on Monday because I was going to have hopefully a fair amount of the content done and up for you guys and available. So I think we'll shoot for next Wednesday since that's our normal meet time. I think I'll probably do it at 8 o'clock again, just because usually when we do 9, we go till 11. We did 8 and we've gone till 10. So, but hopefully the next one, we've been through the bulk of what's going on, and hopefully the next one will be a little bit shorter. We'll just get maybe a couple more reactions from the actual content when you guys have had a chance to go through it.
Tony, I don't think I've done a call with you that's ended before midnight. So, I mean, I don't know this 11 o'clock bullshit coming up with, but.
Hey, you know what? I'm happy to have a little drink with somebody afterwards if you guys want to stay, but we're actually wrapping up, man. Like, I just got to do my little candle pass and then we're good.
There we go.
So, as a moment of vulnerability, I guess I'll throw out there that from my perspective, this has been a very interesting development in Sigma Chi. It's been, I think it's in a funny kind of way. I think, and Pete can attest to this. 5 years ago on Team Croc, we were still Team Balfour. I think one of the things we talked about was, it's like, you know what? Every year, man, there's so much shit that changes. And what happens is, as a committee, we just keep having to reinvent and reinvent and reinvent. Man, it's really time to get some consistency. And it's kind of funny because all of the programming and the processing behind the scenes has been set for that. It's just in the last 5 years, so I think we've changed every year. What the hell's been going on? And, certainly with COVID, nobody could have predicted this. Here we are changing and adapting again. And, but I will say this, I really don't mind it because it keeps me on my toes. It keeps our team on our toes. It keeps us adapting. And yes, it would be nice to, roll into it. I mean, I think last year as a team, we came in with pretty much the same materials from the year before. I think we had a pretty good stride. And although this year is going to be a disassociation from that content, as stressful as it can be, it's still exciting to be able to go through this new challenge together and, build it so we can come out the other end with a lot of positive feedback and positive results. So, that said, it's been a rough go the last month trying to figure out how to change the content and then figure out how to deliver the content. And I hope you guys know that, for a while there, we had some guys that were getting on some calls for an executive team. And we haven't had as many in the last month. We were just trying to work on some stuff. I hope you guys know that I have not tried to remove any of this team from this process. At certain moments, I can tell you that I do, I'm certified in project management. Like I kind of excel at that, believe it or not. And, this hasn't been easy. So, figuring out how to plan this and incorporate people. I mean, part of that is how do you use your resources best, resources being people to overcome a challenge such as this. And, if I haven't reached out to you, and that's pretty much everybody on this call, I know I haven't reached out to you. It's because I'm used to going into something with enough time to plan it out the way that I like to plan it out so that I know what has to get done, when it has to get done. And I won't do it. But if I kind of pointed the camera around to the room I'm in where I've been doing this work, it's like a fucking war room of just, tripods and cameras and microphones and, sheets plastered to the walls to get backdrops and weird stuff. Like I've really, I don't want to use the word struggle because I don't feel like I'm struggling, but this has been a very interesting redirect for me. But for the people that have reached out and have asked, what can I do? Like, this is my big ask. It's not in the content stuff because that's hard enough for me to get my head around on how we're going to do that and what's going to be in it. And it's just happening at last minute. It's being cool with the fact that we're 3 weeks away and you're just getting the stuff. And you've got 3 weeks to learn the content. You've got 3 weeks to figure this Zoom shit out. You've got 3 weeks to get into a brand new learning management system that most of you have probably never seen. I think it'll be okay because everybody on this team is highly intelligent, and I got nothing but gratitude and for everything you're doing. And I know everybody's perfectly capable, but that's what I need. I need this team, to individually and in their little 2-man groups, facilitation groups, to just be ready to crush this content and learn the systems and get up and running. Because, right now I'm in my sprint trying to figure out how to get the content done to get it out. And I haven't been able to include people in that because figured out how to do that yet. But, that's something Dan and I are going to be working on as we build this content out more. And I'll be asking for his help on that to try and help me figure out how to do it, as well as the rest of you. So if you guys can just bear with me, I would appreciate it. That's what I need right now, is just bear with me and take this kind of in stride, that there's a lot of content and a lot of stuff that you guys got to learn in the next 3 weeks. And if you can dive in for that, trust me, you're doing more than I should ask. You're doing more than I could ask, and more that Sigma Chi should and could ask of you. You're doing everything. And that's what's going to matter when you guys actually get on those phone calls with those undergrads, is that you did the prep work to be prepared for it. So if you can do that, man, that would be, actually, I already know you guys are going to do it. So, believe me, that's a big weight off my shoulders, knowing that this team is amazing and it's going to roll into this new experience ready to go. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you guys have done already and are willing to do leading up to and through workshop. So I appreciate it. And with that, I'm gonna click the stop record. I guess I could, if I'm gonna post this online, I can